This is Truth and Oneness with Aquarius.
And Scorpio.
On this channel, we are going to be discussing various topics ranging from current events to ancient cultures with the purpose of seeking truth and enlightenment and spreading this knowledge to others. Today's first discussion will be on why we should never stop seeking the truth as people, individuals, and as a society. What do you have? Do you have anything to say, or what do you think about that, Scorpio?
Never stop seeking the truth. That's pretty interesting. I would definitely have to go with probably like knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you understand like what you're capable of, what other people are capable of, and that's why they like to divide us and conquer us in various ways, like telling one people they're better than others. But in all reality, it's like we're all in this together.
So you're saying that you're easier to be controlled if you don't know truth, or you divide and conquer is easier if you don't know the truth?
Yeah. I definitely say it's like if you divide people up, you see it all the time, like especially schools in the U.S. where like certain groups of people will get better textbooks, and others will get lesser textbooks or anything like that. Even though the textbooks a lot of times might be just distributing lies, but still,
more than likely.
Yeah, you're still like there's a good chance that it's like the information overall is worse for some people than others.
So they keep us sort of out of the loop, if you will, away from the truth, and in that they are keeping us sort of divided for the purpose of sort of keeping us conquered or controlled.
Okay. Definitely seems that way.
Yeah. I know also, just for everyone to realize too, in order to, if you're a person who is a truth seeker, or you're someone who maybe you just learned a little bit of truth about something in your reality, keep searching. Basically, it's the point that we're trying to get across to people is to keep looking, and you do have to be kind of humble, I guess, or be willing to completely just set aside all of your current beliefs, your current belief system, everything you thought in your life that was true, more than likely is not, and you have to come to that realization a lot of times in order to be able to receive the truth. You have to realize that everything you know at the moment is not true, and that's kind of hard for people, especially with a lot of stuff we're going to be getting into later.
Yeah, it's like definitely challenging a lot of your belief systems, and things that you hold dear might be incorrect, so definitely be prepared for it to be uncovered as not being true.
Exactly. And realize also that knowledge is power, knowing the truth is power. You come to this, first you realize that we're kind of, as a society, kind of really under control. We're being controlled. But once you start uncovering and digging and realizing what the truth is, you realize that actually, we as individuals and as people, we're the ones that have the control. And the only way we can actually realize that is through knowing the truth, I feel like. Otherwise, you inadvertently sort of keep giving your power away because you don't really know what's up and down and all that kind of stuff. So, anything to add to that?
I would definitely say with this knowledge is power, everyone should know that power means you have responsibility. It's like responsibility to let other people know, not just to keep it to yourself. You need to let everyone understand who they are and what they're capable of.
Well, yeah, and then there's I just say, speak from my personal experience, that you can come against brick walls with that. So I guess you don't necessarily have to just go out and like try to...
Don't scream it to the world, right?
Yeah, not necessarily that, but because one way other people around you, just thinking different thoughts and being different yourself, what does it say? Change starts with you, sort of.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
true. Mm-hmm. So once you start acting or doing things differently with how the world is really set up, knowing that knowledge, that in itself is enough to help change and enlighten the world, sort of, if you do things differently. But so on this channel, we'll kind of be going over how we got to where we are today. And so we'll be looking at, and we're going to look at this truthfully. So we're going to go over we're going to probably discuss some nitty gritty stuff and we're talking about sexism and racism and all kinds of isms, different topics in those areas, because some people, so especially I notice a lot of like, I don't want to say new age, but enlightened people don't really want to talk about like racism and sexism and like issues of those, those kind of issues, because they're like, oh, we're past all, we're all one. I'm like, I understand we're all one, but this stuff is important for people to understand why these issues are present, and we need to talk about these issues so that people understand how we're and the point that we are in today, and we can't ever move past an issue unless we really understand it, right? So we'll be talking about, so basically some of the topics that we talk about, it may offend some people or whatever, but you're just gonna have to get over that because we need to discuss things. That's the purpose of this channel, is to discuss it so we can kind of get to the bottom of things, and help lead sort of the world toward enlightenment. That's kind of the idea here. But so we're going to be talking about a lot of ancient stuff, current events. We're going to talk about ancient spirituality, ancient cosmology, the mother goddess type of thing, current issues that are going on in the world as well. One thing I want to mention is the ancients knew quite a bit of very important things regarding who we are in our world. And
so definitely look forward to that.
Yeah, really, because we're kind of given this sort of, I feel like throughout our lives, whether it's given to us in school or whatever, we're kind of given this sort of play-by-play that the ancients, there's a lot of things they knew, but they didn't really know what they were talking about because they didn't have a lot of technology that we have today, so don't listen to most of the stuff they said. But that's
misrepresentations.
Oh yeah, and that's couldn't be further from the truth, really. They had some of the most important information that we should all have now. A lot of that knowledge has been destroyed and lost, but the bits and pieces that have been left behind and have actually been passed down, and that we can kind of scrape together and find, and will help us connect the dots and help us figure out who we are as a people in society, and sort of how we got to where we are today and what we really should be doing here on this sort of plane that we're on. What do you have anything to add about that?
Just looking forward to all the different discussions we're going to be having about things from ancient times to the current events. Yeah, and we're both sort of on a truth journey, and so some of the things we're going to be discussing we're going to be presenting mostly facts, so things that can be proven based off of history or books or whatnot. And then we'll be giving our opinion on stuff too. Yeah, we're just going to have some theories that might, obviously they might offend people because sometimes the truth hurts, but just go through your stages of grieving and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that too. But I wanted to kind of mention too that a lot of the different things we're going to be talking about, there are other people who've been discussing these things as well, and probably know a lot more than we do on some of the subjects, and some things we may know a little bit more on, but basically we're going to be pulling from what other people know as well and kind of discussing their views on it, and we'll mention some people too, and then discuss what we've found on the topic and just kind of go over it in that way. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's see, why is the truth important?
That is definitely the question of the hour. Truth is important because, if all you know is lies, then what do you really know, right? It's like you don't really know anything. It's like, so it's like you don't know who you are, where you're from, what's underneath your feet, like what's in the sky. You don't know anything. So if the truth to you is what it is, you might as well go ahead and kind of start to look a little bit deeper to find out what's really going on, because it's a little bit more interesting, and you'll be very empowered once you start to realize
the world is more interesting than we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also understand too that there's going to be a wide range of different people listening to this, and some people maybe already know all the stuff that we know and we're going to be discussing, and probably way past us, and there are people that will be kind of catching up to where we are, and people kind of where we are too. So depending on, I guess, where you are in your truth seeking, this may be old news to you, the stuff we're discussing, but it may be stuff that we'll be introducing to you that you never thought of before, and maybe you'll get your kind of thinking more about some things you never thought about before, and then you can kind of look more into it and find out, and that, become more enlightened on whatever the subject might be. But yeah, the truth is important. It is really important because, like you said, Scorpio, it's like if you are someone who's trying to better yourself in any way or just become more enlightened, especially a lot of people are on spiritual kind of enlightenment, spiritual evolution journeys, or just trying to be your best person here in this life. It would be difficult, and intuitively I feel like we know that this is something that's much harder to attain if your groundwork or your baseline is false.
Yeah.
You can't grow if the things that you
can't build a house on a broken foundation.
Exactly, on a foundation that's not real.
Yeah.
So the truth is definitely important, and a lot of people will be like, why is this important? Like some of the things we're talking about, how is this important? Because it's the truth. That's why it's important.
Yeah.
It's important to you because it's the truth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of want to make sure everyone knows too that we live in a society, in a world where we don't quite know this, but we're all under control. So it is important for everyone to realize that as a society, we are all under control. I mean, you may not want to admit it to yourself, but we're under control. But knowing the truth can be kind of alarming at first when you first find out what the truth is, and then you just discover it more. It can be a little bit alarming, but as you kind of sit in that and it kind of settles down, it actually is very calming. The truth is calming, and it frees us from this control that we're under as well. So it's important in that aspect as well. So that wraps it up for today with Aquarius
and Scorpio.
This is Truth and Oneness, and next week we'll be discussing a little bit on our current cosmology and ancient cosmology.